We have a breaking news update regarding the ongoing Epstein files scandal, and that is that Donald Trump has finally publicly admitted defeat on a key Epstein files vote that he has fought like hell, publicly and privately, to try to avoid. Now that it's unavoidable, he's reversing course and saying, actually, yes, everybody should vote to release the Epstein files in a desperate bid to save face, and there's an additional twist on top of it. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, as Mediaite reports, nothing to hide. Trump urges Republicans to release Epstein files after some GOP members fell into Dem, quote, trap. Trump urged House Republicans to release as many files as possible tied to dead sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein, with Trump saying, quote, we have nothing to hide, and that it was a necessary move considering some of his party have fallen into the Epstein trap laid by Democrats. Here's a big chunk of his post. Let's take a look here. House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide, and it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the government shutdown. The Justice Department has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein, and are looking at various Democratic operatives, Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Harry Summers, etc., and their relationship to Epstein, and the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they're legally entitled to. I don't care. All I do care about is that Republicans get back on point, which is the economy, affordability, where we're winning big, our victory on reducing inflation from the highest level in history to practically nothing, bringing down prices for the American people, delivering historic tax cuts, gaining trillions of dollars of investment into our country, a record, the rebuilding of our military, securing our border, deporting criminal illegal aliens, ending men and women's sports, stopping transgender for everyone, and so much more. So, I want to stop right there. Obviously, most of what Trump said is bullshit, like the trillions of dollars of investments. We've debunked that. His very transparent, ham-fisted attempts to, co-opt the affordability message, which is something, by the way, that Democrats need to be paying attention to. We should not simply assume that it will align with the Democrats, that we need to continue to aggressively message and campaign on affordability and not just, cede that ground to Trump. But all of that notwithstanding, Trump is throwing in the towel because he has worked aggressively to defeat this discharge petition. He failed spectacularly. Now that the discharge petition is likely to go through, the reporting is that dozens of Republicans who were too cowardly to sign onto the discharge petition, but now that the discharge petition is working, will now vote to release the Epstein files because they know it's a terrible polling issue for them. Trump is basically trying to do the whole thing. It was all my idea. You know what? You guys were going to do it anyway, but actually I'm giving you permission to do that, which you were about to do already anyway, right? So he's trying to get ahead of it from far behind, and he is failing spectacularly. And again, there's another twist that we're going to get on in just a second. But Mediaite also says, Trump dares Congress to make him release the Epstein files, which he still refuses to do. The House is scheduled to vote on the legislation Tuesday. This is the discharge petition. Mike Johnson had resisted bringing the bill to the floor, but a majority of House members, including 4 Republicans, signed a discharge petition to force the vote on the measure, which is expected to pass as more Republicans said they'll support it. If the bill passes, it would head to the Senate, where its fate is unclear. Should the Senate approve, the legislation would head to Trump's desk for his signature or veto. Okay? Notably, Trump can order the Justice Department, which is part of the executive branch that he controls, to release the Epstein files without congressional authorization. So this will come up at the very end, but some Republicans, actually, you know what, we'll just skip right there. Anna Paulina Luna, for example. She's a MAGA Republican congressman from Florida. This is what she had to say. She goes, like I said before, Trump has zero to hide, and some have used this whole thing in an effort to smear Trump, which is incredibly sad because the victims deserve justice. The truth always comes out. I look forward to our investigations into this on GOP oversight. So she's trying to give Trump credit. See, if Trump had nothing to hide, why would he say go ahead and release the Epstein files? Well, dumbass, you're either too stupid or too dishonest to, accurately express this. I'm not sure which. You never know with Anna Paulina Luna. The reason that Trump is now saying go ahead and vote for it is, number one, everybody was going to vote for it anyway, or rather a majority was going to vote for it anyway in the House, and he tried to stop it and failed. And I'm not going to give him credit, nor should anyone else, for Trump trying to do something really bad and failing. He's not a good person because he tried to do something really bad, which is bad in and of itself, and failing. It just means he's bad and incompetent, number one. Number two, if he has nothing to hide, then he could really put his money where his mouth is and just order the DOJ to release the Epstein files, which he's refused to do. So again, he clearly does have something to hide. Again, she's hoping. Again, I don't know if she's personally stupid or if she's trying to manipulate the MAGA base into believing that, oh, see, look, Trump is vindicated here. Look, He's tried to hide this for weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months. But given that he failed to hide it and now he's just throwing his hands up, see, it proves he has nothing to hide. No bullshit. That's not how that works. Now, the reason, again, that Trump is thinking about this is the polling on this is atrocious, as CNN reported. But crucially, it's also something Americans are liable to believe the worst about. To wit, 69% of Americans said the government is probably hiding information about Epstein's clients, according to a Reuters Ipsos poll. 92% think the files probably include damaging information about wealthy or powerful people, for a CBS News YouGov poll. 69% doubt the Trump administration's claim that there is no Epstein client list, according to a Yahoo News YouGov poll. That same poll showed even 33% of Republicans said Trump hadn't gone far enough to get to the bottom of the Epstein matters. And this is the key part, and perhaps most strikingly, only 26% of Americans, so one quarter, and just 55% of Republicans, so barely over half, were willing to rule out that Trump had engaged in crime with Epstein. In other words, 3/4 of Americans believe it's possible or likely that Trump was also a criminal accomplice of Jeffrey Epstein, thus his motivation to keep the Epstein files buried. So even though it's not a high salience issue for Trump, the polling on it is atrocious. It's the worst polling issue for him. So that's another incentive. But again, we'll get to the twist in just a second. Thomas Massie, the Republican congressman who has led the rebellion against Trump on the Epstein files, responded really interesting. 5 times August on Twitter says, so the Epstein files exist, but they actually don't exist because it's all a hoax. And anyone asking for their release is actually a bad person. And Trump doesn't want or need their support anymore, even though Trump himself is now requesting their release because he has nothing to hide. But he does want you to stop talking about it, but also ask Bill Clinton about it because the files are on Bondi's desk ready to be released tomorrow, back in February. But it's just phase 1, even though there's no phase 2. And hey, some binders. And thanks to Dan Bongino, we can confirm that Epstein did indeed kill himself because 10 hours of some, quote, clear as day, enhanced footage of a door that wasn't his cell with a few missing minutes proves it. Case closed, right? This is satire. They're mocking the inconsistency of Trump's rhetoric. And by the way, everyone should share this post and go along with it and make fun of Trump. Thomas Massie responded with a thinking emoji because he's also not buying this. This isn't Trump acting on principle. This isn't Trump demonstrating he has nothing to hide. It's Trump admitting defeat and Trump being wildly inconsistent in his conceptualization of the Epstein files. Khanna is also taking a well-earned smug victory lap about this. He goes, glad to see Donald Trump's complete and total endorsement of my bill with Thomas Massie. I believe that by standing up for principle, Americans will have your back and the mightiest will see the way. This is how we start to heal the chasm in our nation, release the Epstein files. Now, again, something to think about. I'll point this out too. Prem Thacker of Zateo says, Khanna and the left are the ones splitting the MAGA coalition. Dozens of Republicans may vote for Khanna and Massie's Epstein Files Transparency Act. Khanna treating MAGA earnestly without watering himself down seems much more effective than what the establishment is doing, right? And listen, Khanna is a bit of a mixed bag for me. Sometimes he frustrates me, but I do think he is sincere. And I do think he is having extraordinary success with the political narrative surrounding the Epstein files. But here's the twist, okay? And it comes courtesy of Don Winslow. Number 1, Trump is told he's going to lose the House vote. Number 2, so Trump comes out and says Republicans should vote yes after a full year of blocking everything. Number 3, but he set a new investigation at the Justice Department. Number 4, the Justice Department comes out and says, quote, we can't release due to new investigation. Number 5, Trump says, quote, it's not my fault. I told them to vote yes. 6, note Trump never told the Justice Department to release everything without any further delays and stop phony investigations into his political enemies. In other words, this is something that we talked about yesterday in a video about Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie brought this up. In addition to the shameless weaponization of the Justice Department, the likes of which we've simply never seen under a Democrat, when Donald Trump publicly ordered Attorney General Pam Bondi to launch investigations into President Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, and others, it's the Democrats who were tied to Epstein, even though Trump is individually tied to Epstein and referenced more in Epstein's emails, the tranche of emails that were released from the Epstein estate and others, more than any Democrat. Trump says, ignore me and ignore the Republicans and exclusively go after the Democrats. He'd said so publicly. We don't have to read in between the lines. We don't have to interpret. He just explicitly said it. Attorney General Pam Bondi publicly acknowledged and said, yes, sir, and I'm putting a specific attorney on it. So now, in theory, Trump, who, again, at any point could have just given the order to Pam Bondi, just release the Epstein files. I'm ordering you to release the Epstein files. Now he can try to claim plausible deniability. Well, sure, I tried to stop the vote and failed. So then I told people to go ahead and vote for it, even though they were going to do it anyway. And sure, this entire time I could have ordered the release of the Epstein files and chose not to. But even if I wanted to now, there are active investigations going on, so we have to not release the Epstein files. So Trump is trying to have his cake and eat it too. And what Republicans will do with this, I'm not sure. Remember, the discharge petition, it was a political defeat for Trump. And if the vote passes in the House, which it almost certainly will, it will be a political defeat for Trump. But the discharge petition alone isn't enough to force the release of the Epstein files because, again, it has to go to the Senate. And there's no guarantee that it will be picked up in the Senate. Senate Majority Leader John Thune could just say, nope, I'm not doing this. And then it's DOA. It's dead on arrival. But even if it makes it past the Senate, Donald Trump could veto it. And then you'd have to get a supermajority in both chambers of Congress to override the presidential veto. So it was unlikely that this discharge petition was ever going to force Trump in the first place, right? It was more of a political messaging, symbolic gesture on a terrible polling issue for Trump and the Republicans. And now Trump has tried to put himself in a position while simultaneously finally conceding, fuck, I can't get rid of this vote. Fine, go ahead. I admit defeat. Also trying to put himself in a position to continue to block the Epstein files. So while this is certainly a tactical defeat for Trump, this vote, he's trying to continue in the long term to block the release of the Epstein files. And no one should give him credit for saying, go ahead and vote for the thing you were already going to vote for in the first place, despite my best attempts to stop it. Okay, don't fall for that shit. And don't let anyone else do it either. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.